That was an idea. Actually, jumping back, I forget who mentioned it before, but I think you mentioned it about Dawkins, the way he. Whenever I talk to someone about humanism or atheism, I always make very sure that I'm not saying you're an idiot, why are you being religious? Because in any not even about religion or anything, people will. If you're telling them they're an idiot, they're wrong, or you're making it seem like that, you're looking down at them, people close up. It's a psychological response. People go on the defensive. And they might even stubbornly disagree with you, and they won't even listen to it. No one listens to most things you say. I mean, there's no epiphanies, and no one's going to agree completely the first time you tell them, there's no God. They're like, oh, I just woke up today. So it is very important to calmly talk people through it. And it's the start of the process. It's the inception of the idea that, there's another, you don't need this in your life to be a good person.
Sorry, I think at the same time, there's value in inducing some kind of shock.
True, very true.
So, for example, if you ask a very fervent religious person, who did Cain marry? Because where did they came from? Where did they come from? Because Cain is Adam and Eve's son. He must have married his sisters, or and they're like, oh, wait a minute, it induces some kind of cognitive dissonance, and they have to think about it, like, does it all make sense? I think there's value in not telling them you're an idiot, but
challenging them.
Challenging, absolutely. Yeah. And that's why I can see the argument against Dawkins and why he's so harsh, but I think there is a need for there to be harsh atheists that are listened to, because you have as you mentioned, the fundamentalist Christians, pastors who are shouting on the streets the whole time, and there is a need for a small group of I suppose, celebrity atheists, you would call, that are like, no, religion is idiotic. And then behind them, we all kind of, we're calm about it, we talk it through, but there's the need for kind of blaze the trail, to combat religion. Well, it's not as important these days, but maybe definitely the last 30, 40 years, it has been important for someone to stand up and be like, this is horrible, look what's happening to women, look what's happening to gay people, and then the rest of us kind of talk it through and work out where we go from there.
Yeah, when we now were setting up Cork Humanist, Aaron has quite a strident and we had a lot of clashes, and he's like, right, I'll be bad cop and you be good cop. So he was always like, Joe, I'll be really aggressive about this. I was like, no, let's be a little gooier. I think we should be a little more gooey, a little hippier. I probably would have done well in San Francisco, just dancing around. And, it was an interesting kind of working out that balance. But I think if you've got too much of either, if you've got too much goo, we're not going to get anywhere. And if you've got too much anger and aggression, that's not going to get anywhere. So it's all about kind of a balance and
moderation.
I think it was in one of Dawkins' books, I read the story where someone's mother heard that her son was no longer believed in God. And she didn't mind that until he told her later he'd actually become an atheist.
That's Julia Sweeney.
We're visiting you from Waterford, so we give you
hey, welcome
to Waterford. And thank you very much for showing the programme.
Thank you for coming.
I found it very interesting, and I found it a very positive message coming out of it.
Absolutely.
When you say you're an atheist, if you take that step and declare yourself, it sounds a bit negative, what you don't believe in. But what's being explored here now is what you do believe in, and where do you build your morality in society. And I think this is so interesting, and it's a big challenge for all of us, because when it comes down to it, we're all human beings. The scientific surveys showed there was no difference in sexual morality between religious people. What it also showed is a level of hypocrisy amongst certain elements of the community. And what I admire most about Dawkins is his honesty. That he is an honest, of course I come from a scientific background, so I would emphasize with the word that. And I have never related to this word strident, dignified. I find him a perfect gentleman. I'm sorry for my experience. But I find that he talks sense, he talks common sense, he cuts through all the bullshit. He has no time for edifices like theology and branches of philosophy that are only there. They bamboozle us and they create university departments and professorships who have a vested interest in maintaining the mysteries about all these things. And it's time we rolled those things back and just took a common sense look at what are we doing. And basically, how do we get on with each other, and morality boils down to be nice to each other.
Absolutely, very good point. I think a very famous line about Dawkins was, you might hate the guy, you might not like him, but you can't disagree with him. He's not wrong when he talks about this stuff. He's harsh.
Everybody loves a dog. Stop your good cat.
Well, I must say, that was a bit of a bad experience that day, and I think he was a bit ratchet before Rebecca thing had happened. But I very much respected and I like reading his things. I read lots. And I think it's interesting people use the word strident, and I use it as well sometimes in a negative manner. I don't think there's anything wrong with being firm. Actually, I think it's admirable to be actually quite firm in your beliefs and determined in it. And I would like that word to not always be associated with a negative thing. Yeah, you're strident feminist. I'm like,
Sorry, I have to say the lady who said about only a theory. Sorry, as a scientist, a theory is not some sort of airy-fairy idea that I come up with. A theory is based on a big body of evidence. Evolution may be called a theory, but it's as near a fact as you're ever going to get. It's not a theory. Everything that has been discovered in science has put another piece of the jigsaw together, and never has anyone discovered something that shows that it's wrong.
Yeah, that's very much the critical.
Careful about the word.
I can say absolutely.
it's a hands jumping
Yes,
up all
I
over the
suppose
place.
everybody has different experiences in life, and they look at things differently. I mean, I just know from people, who are mentally ill, somebody that I know who is mentally ill, and a relative who isn't, and that person wanted to speak to the person who's mentally ill, and to try to speak to them in terms of their experience rather than the experience of the person who's mentally ill. And I just said, you can't do that. You can't, because the person who is mentally ill has a very different experience of this world. The world is not the same to them as it is to an ordinary person. So I think you have to understand people's experiences going through life and the answers that they themselves find, which help them to get through life. Because life for some people can be extremely difficult, and you have to respect whatever crutches they find in life to get them through it. So I'm not saying, I think very much like Richard Dawkins. He verbalizes everything that I have thought about this world since I was 17. And it's not that I disagree with him, but I like him to be a bit more tolerant and understanding of other people, even though in his eyes they may be wrong.
Absolutely. I think it was the theory word.
The key word is there is that if you look at two atheists, Attenborough and Dawkins, we prefer listening to Attenborough describing about life, and his presentation skills are absolutely superb. Attenborough, and you get the same message from him. But Dawkins a bit more straight, I agree now.
I like to find common ground with people who have religion. And one way I thought of this myself was, if you say to them that, right, you will take first the top 30 religions in the world. The only difference between you and me is that you believe 29 of them are I believe 30.
Yeah. I think that was Richard Gervais said, since the start of recorded history, about 4,000 or 5,000 people have written recorded history, that there are over 3,600 deities. You only disbelieve in 3,599. You're as much of an atheist as I am. That was very funny. I think there was a point there. I had an experience recently. A friend of mine, her father died in very bad circumstances, and I wouldn't like how she would be atheistic in a sort, but anytime I talked to religion about it, she mentioned that thought of her father being with her in a spiritual way helps her through it. So that's something you do need to take account, because as Mary mentioned, for some people, spirituality or the religion is helping them. It's all they have through a hard time, and it's not fair of us to say, we're taking this away from you, this safety blanket. It's only when religion, it's only, like you mentioned as well, if you have spirituality, and if you believe in a higher being, that's fine. Absolutely, everyone can have their own spirituality. It's only when you subscribe to a dogma in a specific church that can influence policy or influence law, and when that religion is influencing the lives of everyone and not just your own personal religion. Because I think in Canada, especially in Canada, they it's a relatively religious country, but religion is a private thing. It's not talked about in public at all. It's nothing to do with it. And a very famous member of, I think, the equivalent of Parliament said that he had a stance, a pro-choice stance, but he was religious. He didn't believe in abortion. He didn't think it could be right, but he left that at home. So he was staunchly pro-choice when he was at his job. And that's very important. Anyone else?
I've seen how many episodes in this series?
There are 3 in this series. I think there might have been a new series released as well, but there's at least 3 in this one.
Okay. I guess there must be one on death. So.
Yes. I have them there. Let me just get up the names of them. This was obviously Sin.
Just asking because I'm interested in the issue raised by this gentleman. What's his name again? Sorry. Okay, Alan. Yeah, about just the mindset or maybe your attitude towards global issues such as climate change. Religious attitude. I wouldn't say religious beliefs, but maybe religious attitudes that permeate through society. The idea perhaps that either God will provide, or the other extreme is the second coming is upon us anyway, so why bother? So I'm wondering whether they tackle that kind of issue in this.
Well, the titles of the next 2 episodes are Life After Death, and then the third one is Meaning of Life. This is all available on YouTube, by the way, if anyone wants to rewatch this. I might actually put a link up on the...
We'll put a link to on the page.
I didn't post it in the email because I didn't want anyone to just watch it and not show up to the
I think we also go to the C4 player. They actually have, I think, some of them still going there. Channel 4, but it's C4 player, you have to look it up.
The Amsterdam Declaration of Humanism actually briefly looks at about ethical living and global responsibility, and also the Oslo Declaration, which me and Aaron were at and Luke wrote on a few years ago. They both actually briefly have mentioned them in terms of ethical responsibility towards other sentient beings and our environment and stuff, which I think is really good that's something that's being announced. And also Michael Nugent, who's doing the ethics of atheism, he's writing up a kind of document on that at the moment. That's available online. He also kind of briefly looks at global responsibility and stuff, which I think is a good thing.
I think that's a good point to kind of put me to close out the meeting. Thanks everyone for coming. Just a few more announcements about stuff that's coming up this month. Next Thursday we have our 3rd Think and Drink. It's going to be in the Port House, which is in the Maritime Complex. All the information is on the website. And the topic is going to be a world without religion, which is somewhat related to what we were just talking about. Then on the 17th, which is a Wednesday, we have our next book club meeting, and it's on a book called Religion for Atheists by Alain Dupont. I have not yet read it, but I will read it before the book club. I think Aaron might have already, and that's going to be in Cork. Then on Monday the 22nd, we've got our next film club meeting, which is a film called The Ledge that came out in 2011. And in our May monthly meetings on May 5th, where we're going to have Colin Ryan as a speaker. He's from Cork. He started Cork Skeptics. He's going to be talking about the value of skepticism, and he's going to do a review of his trip to the QED conference, which is a question explorer Discover conference in Manchester. And just say thank you very much for everyone for coming, and I enjoyed that debate as well. Very interesting. And have a nice Sunday.